This is Jay Martin.
Okay, welcome to the Jay Martin Show. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jay. I'm an investor looking for the smartest home for my cash. If that sounds like you, I think you're going to like what we do here. Now, my guest today is a return guest, Mr. Shawn Wallace. He's the CEO of Torq Resources. Shawn, thanks so much for coming back on the program today.
Thanks for having me, Jay. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Good to see you. And I'm excited to chat with you today because we've had you on the show a few times. Most of my audience is going to be familiar with the Torq story, but we're speaking today on the back of some pretty significant news. So a quick refresher for anyone who's not familiar or can't recall, Torq is based in Chile, 3 projects in Chile, gold, copper exploration company. And the reason that I wanted to talk to Shawn today was because they just put out drill results from their Santa Cecilia project. The reason that the market investors and myself have been anticipating these results is because of the proximity, right? You guys are adjacent. You're right on the border of the 4th largest undeveloped gold project in the world, the Norte Abierto project, which is currently joint ventured between Barrick and Newmont. So obviously, we're all wondering, what are you going to find right next door? We're going to talk about that today because thus far, the results are proving you to be very smart acquiring this project. So we're going to talk about that. I also want to get an update on the Margarita Project, which is just to the west. As we were just sharing before I hit record here, that's where you guys go, and the Chilean winter gets too cold right now up at Santa Cecilia. So we'll do that. And then for anybody who's brand new, the back half of the interview, we're going to go over some high-level company fundamentals, recap the management team, the experience, and all of this. Shawn, how does that sound for a blueprint today?
First for me.
Okay, well, let's jump right into the Santa Cecilia results. So 2 drill holes published very recently. Share with us what you found and why it's getting you excited.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. This was the first phase of a truncated first phase of drilling at the project. So we knew when we started the drill program that we were going to get interrupted by weather. So I think it's really important for people to realize that we didn't go out and do a 2 drill hole program. There's a number of other meters that are a part of this program, part of the scientific, the geological thinking, the premise that we're trying to prove or disprove through this process. And we knew when we acquired the project, now as we've discussed before, with the historical hole, there was 900 meters of pervasive mineralization at about a 0.43 or something copper equivalent. That's fantastic. So we knew we were in a big system. And, as you pointed out, we're right beside Norte Abierto. Obviously, we've age dated the rocks. We know we're part of the same sort of geological mineralizing event as the other projects, being Caspiche. And Caspiche in particular is the one that we're closest to. And that'll become important as we discuss these drill holes. It was fantastic to have that a historical drill hole that was drilled in 2012, substantiated the fact that there was a big system there. So we say to ourselves, okay, we know there's going to be a big sea of mineralization here. I personally have worked on a number of projects like this in my career, back with the Hunter Dickens Group, Pebble, Mount Milligan, Camas, Fish Lake. I mean, these porphyries it's like coming home for me to work on another one of these. So I'm real happy about that. And the way they evolve too. So sort of seeing how these things play out. Ultimately, you get these massive deposits. And the trick for our company, or the goal for our company, is to find out where's the sweet spot that brings all these other resources into economics. So we're looking for what's called the causative intrusion, the event that sort of created it before all these minerals got blasted out into all the rocks. There's going to be a core or a way that it came up, for simplicity's sake. I won't get too technical here. And that's what we're hunting for. So what is so important for us on this first drill program is that we sort of stepped out a bit from that first historical hole, drilled on an angle to try and cross as much structure as we could to see what's there. And then we stepped out, and that drill hole, the results came back very similar to the first hole. Okay. And it's not part of the causative intrusion, but it was put there by the causative intrusion. Then we stepped out nearly 700 meters away, and we saw almost a 70% increase in the gold grade. And as you go to depth, you see the copper grade increasing. So that is exactly what we're looking for. That means all the work that we did at surface, all the geophysics, all the geochemistry, all the mapping. We inherited this project. None of that had been done in a modern context, which is why it took us a bit of time to get to this drill program. You know, using the Italian tailor's adage, you got to measure twice, cut once. I mean, drilling is expensive, and you want to make sure you're giving yourself the best shot at success. So that second hole with that much increased grade hit higher up in the system, which is very important, obviously, because when you move a ton of waste, it costs the same as a ton of ore, except the waste doesn't pay for the ultimate mining scenario that could develop here. So we saw exactly what we wanted. And because of the geology, we know, even though the grade went up, we still are not in the main event. So we're still getting closer and closer to that main event. And that is what the rest of the drill program, when we resume in the autumn, when Mother Nature allows us to step foot back up there again, we're going to be chasing down that causative intrusion. And that's just on one porphyry target. The other very amazing thing that's happened, we had a news release probably about 2 weeks ago that highlighted now there was one known porphyry occurrence when we acquired the project. Now we've got about 5 or 6. And so it's fantastic. We just have an abundance of targets that we have to explore. We've done all the groundwork for it, so investors can look forward to sustained drilling. And let's face it, drilling is where the excitement is. Drilling is where the value is created. Drilling is the reason that I love doing this business, because every day you wake up and you want to see what that thing did while you were sleeping.
I love that. And, you know, I've obviously worked with your team and for a while, and I'm always very impressed at the scale of your drilling programs when you're ready to pull the trigger on those, right? You guys don't mess around. You know, you get right to work. So we've paused the project now. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, it wasn't a 2 drill hole program, right? Climate. We'll pause this program until the end of the Chilean winter. In the meantime, you're going to focus your energy on the Margarita project to the west. But when you come back to Santa Cecilia, knowing what you know now, you're getting closer to the cause of intrusion, as you said. Where do you go next? Do you go closer to the Caspice deposit, which is...
That's right. We're going to keep stepping out.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and each drill hole will inform the next. So if we learn something new in a drill hole, you know, we have the best laid plans of mice and men. We got our idea of exactly what we think is going to happen, and then you ask the earth a question and you poke a drill hole and it gives you an answer, and then that will help you inform the next thing you do. I mean, we're a very technically driven group, which you need to be in this business. Otherwise, I don't know what you're doing. You know, each new data point helps inform what you're looking for next. And I don't see a big, thus far, so our big plan about how we would drill this thing hasn't been disrupted by these 2 holes. In fact, is what our theories were and what we're aiming towards has been substantiated by the results we got in hole. So that's good. We're not sitting here having to scratch our heads and we're okay, what the heck's going on here? This porphyry is behaving precisely the way we thought it would. So therefore, we're going to continue doing what we're doing because it's working.
I like it. Okay. And then for context, when do you get back to work? When does the Chilean winter relent typically?
I mean, it's in October, November. November, you know, every year is different. And I think all the viewers can agree, no matter where you live right now, we're all having to contend with slightly different weather patterns and schedules than we grew up with. And then, you know, there's no exception here. So it might come sooner or it might come later. Either way, we'll be prepared to go when it allows us to do so.
Yeah, North American fall. That's when we can look forward to it. Okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so in the meantime, we're focusing our attention on Margarita, correct? What can you share with my audience today? I know you're getting started right away here.
That's right. We, you know, our crew got to go home and change their clothes and get back out into the field. And we're launching right away here on a 4,000 meter drill program to follow up on our last successful campaign at Margarita, which, you know, was a brand new discovery. We're getting a lot of attention from other mining companies on it because it could be, you know, it could come together very quickly. It's a near surface, high grade for this type of deposit. In particular, the gold grades are kind of had us scratching our head. These sort of IOCG, iron oxide copper gold, they typically just have a small gold credit. Well, ours, the copper and gold are of equivalent value. So that's fantastic. That, you know, it's no secret that our group's business model is to go find something valuable and then sell it to someone, the eventual miner of it. And by having a good gold component, it just adds to the list of potential suitors, people that would want to own a project like that. Now we got the copper and the gold people that would be interested in it. So, you know, that's the end game. I always keep my eye on the end game, because that's actually where we're rowing towards. But it's a very exciting project. It doesn't have the scale of a Santa Cecilia. It's not going to be, a billion tons, and but a couple 100 million tons of what we've been finding at Margarita, and we're off to the races. I think we'll have a transaction on our hands.
Interesting. Okay. So 4,000 meter drill program kicking off by the time this video is published. Safe to say that we'll publish this in a couple days after recording, and this program will take you pretty much until October, correct? We'll start in August.
Probably, yeah. I mean, again, you never know how fast it's going to go, but if the last round that we drilled there is any indication, we should be done, mid-late September, early October, say, if there's any hiccups, which happens. And then the results will come in, and boom, we'll be right back up at Santa Cecilia to follow up on that exciting project.
Okay, now I just have to get you to expand on your final statement that you shared about Margarita right before my last question. You said based on what we find here, we're possibly looking forward to some kind of a transaction if things go the way we think this drill program might. I'm putting words in your mouth, so correct me however you want to, but expand on that forecast for me a little bit. You've been in this game a long time, Shawn. You've had a handful of wins. It's not your first rodeo with these deposits, nor with walking a company all the way to the exit. So what are you seeing right now that's firing you up in that regard?
Well, it's just the fact that gold grade is the way it is, where this particular project is located. It's located low elevation, near all sorts of other mining infrastructure. It's the kind of deposit that's, there's nothing without risk. And here, I'll caution this: I'm predicating that we're going to continue to be successful drilling. I mean, this is what we want to achieve. So, Mother Nature and the drill bit have to cooperate.
Yeah,
they have thus far, so there's no reason to expect that won't continue. We through our surface work, again, much like Santa Cecilia, we did exhaustive surface work, targeting work. So the only dollars that are going to be spent now at Margarita are going to be into the drill bit. So drilling's where we create our value. This is the thing that's going to make a major mining company, or a mid-tier in the case of Margarita. I think it's more suited for a mid-tier suitor. It'd be more impactful for them to acquire a project like that. Just because it checks a lot of boxes, and that's why I think a transaction could come quickly. I don't know that, but like you said, having gone through this, I know how these things evolve, and this is the type of thing that could come quickly, I believe.
Now, you made a comment right before I hit record that I just want to maybe chat about a little bit. You said this game takes longer than it used to, and people's attention spans are shorter than they used to be. And I thought, man, there's so much truth in that, right? You're playing a really hard game, right? A lot of hurdles for you to overcome. Margarita is now at a place where every dollar does go directly into the ground, which as a shareholder is lovely, right? It just means an increased frequency of news flow. We get to the answer quicker, right? So you can figure out if you want to double down here or go somewhere else. What I love about the team that you've built is how busy you stay, good market or bad, right? There's a lot of companies that batten the hatches and kind of take a pause if market sentiment isn't providing a tailwind. You never do that, right? You guys stay incredibly busy. I think maybe based on previous success, you're able to raise cash, good markets or bad, maybe not always in the terms you want, but you're able to do it, right? You can always put cash in the treasury when you need to. But I'd love you to expand on that comment just because it seems very timely to me. It seems very timely, especially since I see a lot of investors that may call themselves value investors, but they play the market like swing traders. And, we're seeing a lot of new subscribers come on the channel now looking for guidance on how to enter the commodity sector. And the first thing I say is identify your time horizon. Value investing is a long-term time horizon, but that's when you get paid, right? When you have the patience. Patience pays. Anything you want to share on that concept, Shawn?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's true with a lot of things. For one, but I'll speak to the mining discipline. I'm an investor in other industries too, and I've had to apply this discipline to the way I behave with my diversification personally. But for mining in particular, it's become all the more specialized. So in other words, you have a lot of different experts that now you bring in, whereas before people could wear several hats. That you don't see that happening as much. So access to personnel is why it's so important. That's one of the reasons, to be honest with you, that we don't button the hatches down here, because if you lose that momentum and lose that human capital, that intelligence, that expertise, is very difficult. It's easy to rev up an engine from an idle, which is, I feel like, what we're doing right now. But thanks for the compliment. You think we're going hard. For us, we're going, this is our battening down the hatches, what you're seeing right now. If I had it my way, we'd have 6 drills on Santa Cecilia right now, pounding away on it, because that's what that project needs. Margarita would have been sorted out 6 months ago. We're going as fast as we can without deluding ourselves to oblivion. The other things that you need to be cognizant of in terms of the timing and the effects things have on timing is something that I'm very supportive of, the movement, but it does cost us time, is the ESG movement, dealing with communities properly. I mean, I cut my teeth doing that kind of work hands-on in the field when I was 19, 20 years old when I first started in this business. So that's something very near and dear to me. It's like a pet project, something I enjoy. I like it when our activities benefit other people. I think win-win is how you get into a country where or even a province or somewhere where you're now a visitor and you get to learn about another culture or other people. It's one of the things that enriches this whole experience, at least for me personally. But it does cost time now. To do that, and you're under so much scrutiny for it, and you have to be so careful. And people are, there's a lot more sensitivities that you have to dance around, and so on and so forth. So that's another thing. Very important though, critical path stuff. So you have to do it. Okay. Permitting would be another sort of part of that. Permitting. I remember back in the days when I worked in permitting. You'd apply, you put in your plan, you'd have your permit in a month. And now it takes about a year to get a permit anywhere. It varies. I'm just throwing out the mean depending on the jurisdiction. Fortunately, so community agreements, permitting, boom, that costs you a year, whereas before it would be weeks. Even in those days, you didn't have to consult the communities, but we used to do it anyway just because it was good business. And then with the sort of environment we find ourselves in with the financial markets right now, there used to be a seasonality to financial markets. You could sort of gear up and plan for your high news flow for the times it would be most advantageous to you. Well, now that's all out the window. The markets are erratic. Particularly in this business, we've seen these discrete financing windows. So you have to always be prepared to finance. You always have to be ready to hit a bid that comes your way to keep yourself financed going forward. This is something that's new to me because thanks to, as you mentioned, we've had some previous successes. We're able to at least have a voice in the terms that we would do the financing, if not dictate them. But now it's sort of much more of an iterative conversation with people. And I don't necessarily like that, but that's just the way it is. So we've had to pivot and adapt the way we do things to have sensitivity for that. So, all these different factors come together to make this, like you said, more of a value investment. People have to adjust their horizons to be reasonable. Sometimes people get impatient and why can't you just don't worry about, well, you can't do that because then there will be no reward.
Yeah.
You have to, there's no shortcut to doing things correctly.
No doubt.
That's the discipline we bring. And that's what I'm most proud of our group.
I love that. And, it's interesting as I hear you walk through this, right? ESG, permitting, access to capital, all of these newer hurdles that just slow a project down, and every company has to deal with it on every continent, no matter where you are. Those three buckets remain. From a counterintuitive standpoint, they're also kind of bullish because that bottlenecks the supply getting to market and amplifies the bullish supply demand dynamic, right? This is why we're running deficits in every commodity the world needs, which sets up a really bullish argument for commodity investors. It's counterintuitive to think about it that way, but it's true, I think.
Well, no, that's 100% true. And in fact, I think if that weren't the case, we probably wouldn't have been able to be successful in acquiring a project like Santa Cecilia. We're just a little junior. We were unknown to the people in Chile. We managed through our team to connect to the property owners, because this wasn't something that was sitting in some broken junior that we got to make a deal on it. This took real effort to make the acquisition and so forth. I think, and I follow the space fairly closely when I have time and when I'm not working on our own companies here, but there's only a handful of companies out right now that have any kind of momentum. They're turning a drill that are, and they're with usually groups that do have a decent track record. Like you said, like the good groups, we idle. To me, it's idling, and compared to the people that have battened down the hatches, they're doing nothing. So if you think about it, and a market can turn on a dime, and I do believe our market's going to turn one day. So I've had to listen to a lot of people talking about things being undervalued. And I certainly believe our company is undervalued right now. And then what happens is, and here all of a sudden, boom, we'll be overvalued. And that happens. What we do doesn't change between those two things. We operate the exact same with the same discipline, using the same science, irrespective of what the conditions we can't control are putting in creating an environment that we live in. And so I don't really bother worrying about that too much. You're worried about getting the job done. Don't dilute yourself too much. Make sure you keep some momentum, because when it does switch, all your so-called, competitors, the other companies that would be buying for investment dollars, they're at an absolute stop, like you said. So it takes time for them to create that inertia, that momentum in their story. Whereas all we have to do is turn up the volume. We can go fast. It's easy to redline from an idle than from a dead stop.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And you can tell, right when that market turns, you can tell who's been at work. It's funny, we're having the same conversations in-house with my business right now, because it's the summer, it's summer doldrums. A lot of companies slow down, and I'm hammering my team saying, we got to be going hard right now. So come Labor Day, right, we're bursting with new projects and new products in the marketplace when everyone else is just coming back to the office. And just to call out one of the goats in our industry, I had Ross Beatty on stage last January at our conference in Vancouver. And, he said exactly what you just shared, Shawn, when I asked him about market sentiment and metals prices and all this stuff. And he goes, Jay, I build mines, and it takes decades to do that. I can't worry about what the price of anything is. I can't worry about sentiment. He's like, I build mines. I focus on my job. That's what I do, right? Good markets are bad. I go to work, right? It's like, that's why you're the GOAT. I get it.
Yeah. We have the same perspective, except we just find them. He builds them, we find them. It's just easier further up the food chain from us.
Good relationship.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's use that as a segue into your team, because I've had a lot of your team on the show. Michael Kosawan, who came from Sprott, Michael Hendrickson, your chief geological officer, Ivan Bebek, obviously one of your advisors and business partner that you've shared a lot of wins with in the past. And I'll mention the entrepreneur that Ross Beatty actually called out on my stage as somebody to watch in the sector that he puts cash with. But what do you want to share from a management standpoint if someone's fresh to the story, Shawn? Who is Torq Resources? Who are you guys?
Yeah, well, Torq, you mentioned all the people that everybody knows, but frankly, we find ourselves being a support team to the true superstars in this particular story on Torq. It's a little bit unique this time. That takes us to talk a little bit about Chile. Chile is a jurisdiction that is second to none. I mean, it's as good as Canada. Often when I've done things in Africa, Asia, all over the world, often you end up having to parachute in a bunch of Canadian expats and then deal with the whole cultural, melding and another, component that can add risk to a project. We've done a good job of managing it because we have respect for the communities in which we operate. But in Chile, really, Mike and I go down there, and that's about it. We don't need to send geologists. Chile's got fantastic technical people. In fact, it was Chilean technical people that brought us these projects to go acquire. Permitting. They do everything to a standard that I don't have to lose sleep at night worrying about what's happening, 12,000 miles away from here, where our business is actually being executed. Up here, we raise money and we file things with exchanges and keep our financials. We run that side of the business. We have a very small office in here in Vancouver. We have all our operations, all our energy is being expended down in Chile by the best people in the business you can imagine. So Waldo Quadra, Piotr, Luciano, these are all, they're all on our deck and our website. They found mines, they've built mines, they've permitted mines, they've got community agreements, they've got the political capital in the country to, if we do get into a scenario, you never know when things change anywhere. They have the connections. We can deal with issues if they come up appropriately, and it's fantastic. It takes a lot of the anxiety of operating in a different jurisdiction away from us up here, and I think that should also, our investors should take solace in the fact that they've got people from that country doing business in that country. It's if you're talking from an ESG perspective, that's what you really want to do as a foreign company. We're benefiting the local people in the area of the thing. We're benefiting the professional people that support this business in Santiago and the capital. So makes us a better corporate citizen, and that's what the name of the game nowadays.
I like that. I love that answer. Appreciate that, Shawn. Look, and I appreciate you coming back on the show and catching up my audience. Major expansion of the porphyry mineralization at Santa Cecilia, and you turn around and get to work the next day on Margarita, which gives us lots to look forward to this summer. You'll be drilling August forward, probably until the fall, and so we'll stay tuned for news flow in that regard from Torq Resources. Thanks again, Shawn. It's always fun catching up with you, man. I appreciate your time.
JJ, thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Now, if you want to take the next step, I publish a weekly newsletter and it's free. There's a link to subscribe right beneath this video, and you can join me and 50,000 other investors weekly for this exclusive content where I share my key action items and takeaways from conversations just like this and plenty others. Thanks for stopping by.